4 shots, 4 lives, one moment that shook an entire nation to its core. It was a warm Monday morning in May. College students, just like millions across America, had gathered to protest a war they didn't start and a decision they never got to vote on. By noon, 4 of them would be dead, shot by their own government, on their own campus, and nothing in America would ever be the same. To understand what happened at Kent State, you have to understand the world of 1970. America had been at war in Vietnam for years. Thousands of young men, many of them barely 18, were being drafted and shipped overseas. The body counts were rising. The public was losing faith, and the anti-war movement was growing louder by the day. Then came the spark. On April 30th, 1970, just 4 days before the shootings, President Richard Nixon went on national television and announced something that sent shockwaves across college campuses everywhere. Nixon announced the U.S. invasion of Cambodia, a secret expansion of the already deeply unpopular Vietnam War. Students were furious. Campus protests erupted all across the country almost overnight. And at a mid-sized public university in northeastern Ohio, Kent State, things were about to escalate faster than anyone could have predicted May 1st, 1970. Students at Kent State held an anti-war rally on the campus commons. It was peaceful, passionate, but the city of Kent was already on edge. That night, downtown Kent saw broken windows and confrontations. The mayor declared a state of emergency and called the governor. Governor James Rhodes responded by sending in the Ohio National Guard. May 2nd, a Saturday night, someone set fire to the ROTC building on campus. The Reserve Officers Training Corps building burned to the ground while students cheered and National Guardsmen watched helplessly. By Sunday, Governor Rhodes held a press conference and called the student protesters the worst type of people that we harbor in America. His words set the tone for what was coming. The National Guard had live ammunition, and nobody thought to tell them they shouldn't use it. Monday morning, May 4th, 1970. Despite a ban on campus demonstrations ordered by the university, thousands of students gathered at the Commons, the central open area of Kent State's campus, for a noon rally. The National Guard was there too, approximately 77 soldiers, armed with M1 Garand rifles and loaded with live ammunition. At noon, a university official tried to disperse the crowd using a bullhorn from a jeep. The students didn't move. Some threw rocks. Some shouted. The guard responded with tear gas, but the wind blew much of it back. The guardsmen began to retreat up a hill, Blanket Hill, with students following behind them. What happened next is still debated by historians. At 12:24 p.m., after reaching the top of the hill, a group of approximately 28 guardsmen suddenly turned around and opened fire. 13 seconds, 67 rounds fired. 4 students were killed: Jeffrey Miller, Allison Krause, William Schroeder, Sandra Scheuer. 9 others were wounded. 1 survivor was permanently paralyzed. The closest victim was 20 yards away. The furthest, 250 yards. Some weren't even part of the protest. They were just walking to class. Let's take a moment to remember who they were. Jeffrey Miller, 20 years old, an outspoken anti-war activist. Allison Krause, 19 years old. She had placed a flower in a guardsman's rifle just the day before. William Schroeder, 19 years old, an ROTC student. He disagreed with the protesters, but believed in their right to be heard. Sandra Scheuer, 20 years old. She wasn't even at the protest. She was walking between classes. 4 young people, 4 different stories, all of them gone in 13 seconds. The reaction was immediate, and it was enormous. Within days, the Kent State shootings triggered the only nationwide student strike in U.S. history. Over 4 million students walked out of class. More than 900 colleges and universities across the country shut down, some for the rest of the semester. It was unprecedented. Nothing like it had ever happened before. The image that came to define the tragedy was taken by a 14-year-old student photographer named John Philo. It showed a young woman kneeling over the body of Jeffrey Miller, arms outstretched, screaming. That photograph won the Pulitzer Prize. It became one of the most iconic images of the 20th century. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young recorded Ohio, a direct response to the shootings, within days. It became an anthem of a generation. Kent State became a turning point, not just in the anti-war movement, but in how Americans saw their own government. The idea that the state could open fire on its own unarmed citizens, on college students, shattered something that could never be fully put back together. 4 lives, 13 seconds, and a nation changed forever. The federal grand jury initially indicted 8 National Guardsmen, but the charges were dismissed. No one was ever convicted. No one ever served a single day in prison for the deaths of 4 unarmed college students. A civil lawsuit brought by the victims' families was eventually settled in 1979 for $675,000 and a statement of regret signed by the Guard. But many felt it was too little, too late, too hollow. The question of who gave the order, or whether any order was given at all, has never been definitively answered. Kent State became a turning point, not just in the anti-war movement, but in how Americans saw their own government. The idea that the state could open fire on its own unarmed citizens, on college students, shattered something that could never be fully put back together. 4 lives, 13 seconds, and a nation changed forever. If this story moved you, share it, because some history should never be forgotten. Subscribe for more stories that shaped the world we live in.